Syria, a land filled with history, shows us how empires rise and fall. This region, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, has witnessed the rise and fall of numerous empires, each leaving an indelible mark on its landscape and culture. Its fertile plains, watered by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, were the birthplace of some of the world's first civilizations. These rivers not only provided water but also facilitated trade and communication, making the region a hub of early human activity. The ancient city of Ebla, from way back in 3000 BC, had a fancy writing system and a huge library of clay tablets. These tablets, inscribed with cuneiform script, reveal a wealth of information about the political, economic, and social life of the time. These tablets give us a peek into a complicated society that was busy with trade, diplomacy, and government. Ebla's influence extended far and wide, establishing it as a significant center of power and culture in the ancient world. The legacy of the ancient Syrians went far beyond their borders. Their innovations in writing, art, and governance influenced neighboring regions and set the stage for future civilizations. The Phoenicians, famous sailors and traders, came from what is now Lebanon and coastal Syria. They were master shipbuilders and navigators, known for their daring voyages across the Mediterranean Sea. They started colonies all over the Mediterranean, spreading their alphabet and knowledge of the sea. The Phoenician alphabet is considered one of the ancestors of modern alphabets, showcasing their lasting impact on written communication. The impressive ruins of Palmyra, a UNESCO World Heritage site, show us how grand the Roman era in Syria was. Palmyra was a thriving city that connected the Roman Empire with the trade routes of the East, making it a melting pot of cultures and ideas. This once busy caravan city controlled important trade routes connecting the Roman Empire to the East. Merchants from various regions converged here, exchanging goods, knowledge, and cultural practices. From inventing the alphabet to developing advanced ways to water crops, Syria's ancient civilizations left a lasting mark on human history. Their contributions in agriculture, writing, and trade laid the foundations for many aspects of modern society. Their inventions and culture helped societies all over the world develop. The spread of their ideas and technologies can be seen in the artifacts and cultural practices that have been preserved and studied by historians and archaeologists. This rich history is part of Syria itself, a land where the past still echoes in the present. The ancient legacies continue to influence the modern world, reminding us of the enduring power of human ingenuity and cultural exchange. When Islam arrived in the 7th century AD, it changed Syrian history forever. Damascus, the old capital, was taken over by Muslim armies in 636 AD, and quickly became a major center of Islamic culture and learning. Under the Umayyad Caliphate, which ruled from 661 to 750 AD, Damascus became a magnificent capital city. The Umayyads, who loved art and architecture, decorated Damascus with beautiful mosques, palaces, and public buildings. The Umayyad Mosque, a masterpiece of Islamic architecture, shows how skilled they were. Its amazing mosaics, detailed calligraphy, and tall minarets still amaze people today. During the Umayyad period, intellectual and cultural life thrived in Syria. Scholars and artists from all over the Islamic world came to Damascus, attracted by its exciting intellectual atmosphere and the support of the caliphs. This era saw the development of Arabic calligraphy as an important art form, and the translation of Greek philosophy and science texts into Arabic. The Umayyads' legacy continues to shape Syrian identity, their cultural contributions influencing the country's artistic traditions and intellectual heritage. When the Ottomans conquered Syria in the 1500s, it started a new chapter in the region's history. This conquest marked the beginning of over 4 centuries of Ottoman rule, which would deeply influence the cultural, social, and political landscape of Syria. Under Ottoman rule, Syria became part of a huge empire stretching from North Africa to Vienna. The Ottomans established a centralized administrative system that integrated Syria into a vast network of provinces. The Ottomans brought stability to the area, but their rule also had times of little progress and decline. Despite the initial stability, the region experienced periods of economic stagnation and political unrest. Syrian society changed a lot during this time. The influence of Ottoman culture permeated various aspects of daily life, from architecture to cuisine and even language. New economic centers grew, and different people from across the empire moved in, leading to new social structures and cultural practices. Cities like Damascus and Aleppo became bustling hubs of trade and culture, attracting merchants, scholars, and artisans from all over the empire. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Arab nationalism grew in Syria. This movement was fueled by a desire for self-determination and resistance against Ottoman centralization. Inspired by ideas of self-rule and freedom, Syrian intellectuals and activists started to resist Ottoman control. They organized protests and formed secret societies to promote their nationalist ideals. When the Ottoman Empire collapsed after World War I, France briefly controlled Syria under a League of Nations mandate. This period was marked by significant political and social upheaval, as Syrians continued to push for independence. During this time, more and more people wanted independence, which finally happened when French forces left in 1946. The departure of the French marked the beginning of a new era for Syria, but it was also the start of a tumultuous journey towards political stability. After independence, Syria had political instability and several coups. The young nation struggled to find its footing, with various factions vying for power and influence. The Ba'ath Party, a secular Arab nationalist party, took power in 1963, promising to modernize Syria and unite the Arab world. Their vision was to create a strong, unified Arab state that could stand against Western influence. Hafez al-Assad, a member of the party, became powerful in the late 1960s and took full control in a peaceful coup in 1970. His rise to power marked the beginning of a new era of authoritarian rule in Syria. Assad's rule was strict and repressive, but the economy grew and became more stable. He implemented policies that promoted industrialization and infrastructure development, which helped to modernize the country. His son, Bashar al-Assad, became president after his father died in 2000. Bashar inherited a country with a complex political landscape and high expectations for reform. He promised reforms but continued his father's strict rule. Despite initial hopes for change, Bashar's presidency has been marked by continued authoritarianism and widespread unrest. Section 4. The Syrian Civil War, a nation divided. The Syrian Civil War, one of the worst conflicts of the 2000s, began in 2011 during uprisings across the Arab world. These uprisings, known as the Arab Spring, saw people in many countries demanding more freedom and better governance. It started with peaceful protests against Assad's government, asking for democratic changes and an end to corruption. People from all walks of life joined in, hoping for a brighter future. But the government's harsh response, using real bullets and arresting many people, led to more violence and quickly turned into a full-scale civil war. The brutality of the crackdown shocked the world and fueled further unrest. Other countries got involved in the conflict, each with its own goals and alliances. This international involvement added layers of complexity to an already chaotic situation. Iran and Russia strongly supported Assad, giving him military help and diplomatic support. Their involvement was crucial in keeping Assad's regime from collapsing. The United States, Turkey, and some Gulf states supported different rebel groups against Assad. These countries had their own strategic interests in the region, which influenced their actions. The conflict became even more complicated when extremist groups like ISIS took advantage of the chaos to take over land and force their cruel beliefs on people. Their presence brought a new level of terror and suffering to the already devastated country. The Syrian Civil War has been full of terrible violence, widespread human rights abuses, and a devastating humanitarian crisis. Cities have been reduced to rubble, and countless lives have been shattered. The use of chemical weapons, barrel bombs, and other weapons that hurt everyone has killed many civilians and forced many people to leave their homes. These attacks have left deep scars on the Syrian population. The conflict has created a huge refugee crisis, with millions of Syrians running away to find safety in nearby countries and further afield. The plight of these refugees has drawn international attention and humanitarian efforts, but the crisis continues to this day. Section 5. A nation scarred. The human cost of war and displacement. The Syrian Civil War has deeply hurt the country and its people. Hundreds of thousands of Syrians have died, and many more are injured or disabled. The war has forced more than half of the pre-war population from their homes, creating a massive humanitarian crisis inside Syria and in nearby countries struggling to care for the refugees. The war has destroyed Syria's infrastructure. Cities and towns are in ruins. Their once busy streets now piles of rubble. Hospitals, schools, and other important services have been attacked and destroyed, leaving millions without basic needs. The economy is ruined, with very high unemployment and poverty. The mental impact of the war on Syrians is huge. Years of constant violence, displacement, and loss have left many traumatized and struggling to cope. The war has stolen the childhoods of a whole generation, disrupting their education and making their futures uncertain. The world faces a big challenge in dealing with the humanitarian crisis in Syria and helping to rebuild the country.